Good afternoon, everyone. I hope I'm audible. Frances, can you hear me?
Good afternoon.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I think we should just go ahead and start. So I'll just take the introduction and hand over to Dr. Harriman. I want to appreciate everyone that has joined this series of lectures. I can see Professor Seku coming up. Nice. I've been waiting for your lecture. So I'm so happy that you're going to give us a lecture. She's someone who anytime she takes a lecture, I really want to listen because she does make a whole lot of sense and helps me to see a lot of things in a new way. So I'm looking up to that today again. So I'm Dr. Oderinlo, Olufemi Oderinlo. I work with I Foundation. I've been here for about 25 years, and I'll just give you a brief introduction just for some of us who don't know a lot about the I Foundation Hospital so that we can get to flow. This is a series that was set up by our leader, Dr. Kunle Hassan. And this is the 15th in the series. The theme has been leadership and influence, and today Prof is going to take career planning and the influence of needs. I Foundation Hospital, as you know it today, did not start like this. We started about 1993. Don't mind me when I say we started. I wasn't there in 1993, but I like to feel a part of the whole program. So just allow me when I say we started in 1993 in a single room in Ikoyi when Dr. Hassan came back to the country after his several years of sojourn in several continents to establish an hospital. And along the line, the need on ground was so much that the hospital had to expand, moved to our present location now, which is 27 Isaac John. Then we were in 27B, but now we're in 27A. On some other days, we'll talk about how that happened. So after the need was quite obvious, the vision began to expand to be able to meet the needs. And so there was the idea to set up a training program and also to be able to provide for the less privileged. And that's how the foundation came into place. In 1995, he gave the first lecture to a group of very prominent Nigerians. And that was what started off the foundation. And we started off then as the I Foundation Center for Research, for Clinical Research, which is still located in Shobo Arobiodu. Over the years, the name and the work metamorphosized into the Deseret Vision Eye Health, Deseret Vision Institute in Ijebu, along with the community hospital. I'm focusing the history today on how KEFA began to come up. So KEFA is the short form for Kunle Hassan Eye Foundation Academy, which is now being saddled in the group with the responsibility of training and also training leaders in the ophthalmic field. We are not restricted to training in ophthalmology alone. We train middle level manpower, nurses, and also in addition to that, this series has been brought up to sort of fill in the gap for the younger generation and for us to be able to look at management issues and issues that have to do with development, which traditionally will not be a part of most curriculum in many academic residency programs or teaching hospital programs. So I Foundation Hospital now, we have a vision to eliminate avoidable blindness by providing equitable, qualitative, quantitative care And that's what the vision of iFoundation is now. So today's lecture, like I said, will be taken by an erudite scholar. I'm not qualified to introduce her, so I will ask Dr. Harriman to do the introductions. Let me just say a few ground rules. Please, as much as possible, if you are not talking, we'll appreciate if you are able to mute your microphone and turn your camera off all through in order to reduce the distraction. When it's time for questions, please either you raise up your hand or you drop your question in the chat box, and we'll be able to take it one after the other. So thank you so much. We're glad to have everyone here. I would love to give you a handshake, but just take the internet high, and we can go on with our lectures. Dr. Harriman, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Odemilo. That's quite interesting, and thank you for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this lecture series. I'd like to introduce Professor Wanjiku Mathenge, also known as Siku. She's a professor of ophthalmology who did her undergraduate and ophthalmology studies at the University of Nairobi and worked as a provincial ophthalmologist in Nakuru, Kenya, before relocating to Rwanda, where she took up appointment as the head of ophthalmology department at the University of Rwanda. She later left to set up in 2011 as a co-founder the Rwanda International Institute of Ophthalmology. Professor Mathenge has an MSc in Community Ophthalmology from the University College London, and for her PhD, which she did at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, she studied retinal diseases in African eyes. She's a medical retinal specialist. Professor Mathenge was for 15 years the medical advisor for Africa for the Fred Hollows Foundation, after which she moved to Orbis International in the same capacity. She has also worked extensively on WHO technical, notably in developing the primary eye care curriculum for the African region. In 2021, she was awarded the IAPB, which is the International Agency for the Prevention of Blindness. She was awarded the IAPB Vision Excellence Award and was on the ophthalmology par list of the 100 most influential women in ophthalmology. She was on the board of the International Council of Ophthalmology from 2013 to 2021 and currently is on the board of the Ophthalmology Foundation. She is the vice chair of the board of Fred Hollows Foundation in Kenya. She's the head of the Education and Accreditation Committee of the College of Ophthalmology of Eastern, Central, and Southern Africa, and she is the vice president of the Rwanda Ophthalmology Society. She's giving her lecture today on career planning and the hierarchy of needs. So Professor Mathenge, we welcome you, and we're eager to hear what you have to tell us. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to hear that this series of lectures is actually a leadership series, because I was worried in case you were expecting a clinical talk from me. So that introduction was very reassuring. Can I just confirm that you can see my slides and that it's in full screen?
Yes, we
can. Okay.
We can.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm joining you from Kigali, that is in Rwanda. And I really want to thank you for that generous introduction. I don't need to say so much about myself. It has been summarized very well. But I'd like to start by just honoring Dr. Kunle Hassan, who it's because of him that I'm here today. I first met Hassan in 2007 when I was nominated to be in the first group of 15 or so African ophthalmologists who are thought to have some leadership potential. And we were brought together for a leadership training course by ICO and Miyako in a quest to improve eye care in Africa. And it is this group that Hassan really motivated and convinced to form what is today the African Ophthalmology Council, which is the only supranational ophthalmic organization that we have in Africa. I've never told Hassan this, but one of the things that I first noticed about him was that he was always accompanied by someone. Not in a bad way, so Mrs. Hassan, don't panic. And in those days, it was this young man, Dr. Julius Teo. I was really fascinated then, and I continued to be completely in awe of Hassan because of the opportunities that he brought to young people that he was mentoring as the next generation of leaders by exposing them to events that were meaningful and literally opening doors for them even when they didn't know a window existed. I'd like to thank you, Hassan, for inviting me today to grace your Institute's founder series. My son just reminded me a few minutes ago that it's almost exactly a year since I broke my shoulder. So last year I was running after my
Sorry, your microphone is muted.
You're muted, yeah. You're muted.
Have I been muted since the beginning?
No.
Okay.
No, you started talking about your shoulder, then you were muted.
Okay, I don't know what happened. So yes, I broke my shoulder and I needed to have surgery. It could not be managed conservatively. And I went to the best hospital here. And my husband actually used to be the medical director of that hospital. And I spent 3 days there on painkillers with doctors still discussing how they were going to manage me. And in the end, I chose to go back to Kenya. And I am a member of the African Medical Research Foundation Flying Wing. So they airlifted me to Nairobi. And as soon as I arrived, within 2 hours, I was in the OR and had my surgery for my shoulder. So I've basically spent this 1 year trying to get my shoulder back to normal. I was determined that I will not have any deficit. And thankfully now I can hold my 90D lens. I told my physiotherapist, your job is to make me go back to normal, and she has done a really good job. And I tell this story at the beginning of my talk just because I'm talking about how you plan careers. And my incident with my shoulder was a reminder that things don't always go according to plan. So no matter what I'm going to tell you today, you must always allow room for things that we never knew would happen. This is an image of me in a village in the hills of rural Rwanda. And I had walked for 2 hours from where the car could reach in search of this young boy who had congenital cataracts and had been told that there was no hope. I'll use it as a background to introduce myself because it does represent the hidden part of my life as an ophthalmologist and the part that I have found most fulfilling. And this is how the young boy navigated the world around his home. I've been very lucky to have ticked all the boxes that I wanted to tick as an ophthalmologist. I've been a surgeon, and a good one, almost all my ophthalmic life. I've worked for 2 of the top NGOs in senior positions as medical advisor for Africa. I've worked for WHO. I've been a teacher. I'm actually a professor of ophthalmology. And I've worked in both the private and public sectors for several years. I was the first female ophthalmologist on the continent to get a PhD. And I've also done a lot of research. And this is my latest paper. It's a randomized trial that we did in Rwanda using artificial intelligence for diabetic retinopathy screening. So I give this background not to show off, though through Hassan and other Nigerian friends that I have, I know that you know that it is okay to show off. But I share this in order to build a vision of shared experiences with all of you who are listening. And I bet that you've all done 1 or 2 or all of these same things that I'm talking about. Now, it may sound like I've had a clear plan and then was blessed to have all my stars align, but that is far from the truth. So today I'd like to share with you the paths or the many paths that I have taken through my sometimes erratic journey, so that you can get some insights on how careers develop and realize that they sometimes develop just out of randomness. But even through those random events, satisfaction and fulfillment can also arise. And this is possible as long as you remain true to your priority needs. So I've titled my talk, Career Planning and the Influence of Needs. So philosophers have summarized that every human being has some core needs, and they've gone further to classify all our needs, all human beings, into 6. And I do believe that what we consider to be our main needs as individuals will impact how we make decisions and also how we behave. So it is those needs, or maybe the quest to meet those needs, that really charts our journey both in our social lives and in our professional lives as we try to build and improve our careers. So my talk today is, I don't want it to be a serious talk. I'd like it to be just a conversation. I think I'm sometimes a storyteller, and this is just the story of my journey in building my career. So, like I said, I believe it is important for each one of us to identify what your key needs are, because whether you know them or you don't, those needs will consciously or subconsciously impact the way you live your life. So what are these 6 needs? The first one is certainty, and certainty is about us wanting to have some things that we are sure will bring pleasure into our lives, to be certain about things that will make us avoid pain, things that we are absolutely certain about. The other need is uncertainty, which is interesting because it's the opposite of certainty. But uncertainty is about the unknown, the need for variety, the need for new stimulation. The third need is significance, and significance is about our desire to feel important and to feel special and to feel that we are needed. The fourth need is connection, or love, or both. And this is the feeling, the desire to be close to somebody, to have some sort of union with somebody or something. There is growth, which is how we expand our capacity, our capabilities, our understandings. And finally, there is contribution beyond self. So a sense of service, a sense of wanting to focus on helping or supporting others. So the needs in blue are what are called personality needs. They impact your personality. And the ones in red are what are called spiritual needs. So they lead us on the spiritual journeys. So how have these needs shaped my career? And it was interesting as I presented this talk to see that a lot of things that happen in my life actually do fit into these 6 human needs. I'm a bit cynical sometimes about these philosophical ways of thinking, but I found that I could actually map my career path into these 6 needs. I believe that the need to have some certainty in my life is what influenced the direction, my decision to become a doctor. So like all of us, I wanted to feel secure, to be safe about the future. I wanted to avoid a painful life, to be comfortable, to be healthy. So in order to do this, I was certain that I needed to excel in education. I did this by going to the top girls' school in Kenya, and I qualified to go there for my secondary school from a school that had never sent anybody to this top girls' school. It meant that I had to work really hard to achieve that. Once I got there, I was certain that I wanted a solid career where a job was guaranteed, and basically that's how I went into medicine. It's unfortunate that these days that's not the situation. Not all doctors get automatically employed, but in my days it was automatic. I was certain also that I didn't want to work as a doctor in Nairobi, mainly because I felt my parents who live in Nairobi would disturb me too much and relatives would keep bugging me. But also I felt that it was too hard and too competitive for you to really become what you want to be. So I became one of the very few female doctors who chose voluntarily to be posted out of the city. I was also very certain that I did not want to remain as a GP, because then you are at the mercy of the government. They send you where they want, and I didn't want that. I was also certain that I wanted to get married and I wanted children. So when I met young men, the truth is I judged them based on that. Would this guy make a good husband? Would I want to have children with him? And I was very certain about the definitely nots. And men, if you don't know, this is actually how it works. Anyway, what I want to say is, as you plan your career, be very clear on the things that you are certain about, because it is much easier to make choices based on stuff that you are certain about. But certainty is also boring. It brings boredom into life, and it makes you very hesitant to take risks. And I think that's why God inherited uncertainty, to bring variety and to bring surprise. So surprise is uncertainty that we want or we like, because the surprises that we don't like, we call those problems. So I was uncertain about the subspecialty that I wanted. I loved pediatrics a lot, but I was really uncertain about how to deal with suffering and death of my patients. And each death left me an emotional wreck. And I just knew I couldn't handle that for the rest of my life. So, and it is that uncertainty that led me to ophthalmology. I chose a subspecialty that was the least popular, which also made it the easiest to get into. The exam was the easiest. But I also knew that there's not a lot of death and emotional baggage in ophthalmology. It was not a decision I made clear about, this is the path I want to follow. It was really uncertain. In my medical school, I scored 49.5% in my ophthalmology rotation. And I'm sure my teacher just gave me that 0.5 because he knew it would be rounded up to 50, allowing me to pass. And I knew this was a teacher who liked me a lot. So I never became a doctor thinking about ophthalmology. I hated ophthalmology. And it's actually uncertainty that took me into ophthalmology. And I joined ophthalmology 7 months pregnant. And that should tell you just how uncertain I was in my planning. I really had a hard time because of entering the course pregnant. And my teachers really gave me hell for it. I as I got older, I forgave them, but I never forget. And the memory of what I experienced helps me today to always look out for my female students and understand that they may have the same needs and plans as I did then. And I facilitate them even when they are pregnant, when breastfeeding, or some who are struggling just to get a baby. And to the women out there, I would like to say, look out for other women. And to the men out there, I'd say, look out for other women. Their needs may be completely different or similar to yours, but the challenges they encounter are different. Look out for them. But I would like to say that being uncertain does not mean we are stupid. And uncertainty is what adds variety and what adds interest in our lives. The third need is significance. And significance is that need we have for us humans to feel important, to feel unique, to stand out. And some of us do that by gathering a lot of money or by being spiritual. Some of us by getting tattoos or piercings, by getting dreadlocks. Some do it through violence, through alcohol, through driving the largest cars. We do what we feel will help us to be recognized. My point of significance was to be a great doctor and to be a great mother and to be a great wife all at the same time. That's what I thought. This is what will make me feel significant. So this photo, by the way, this is Eric, that little boy on the day of his surgery. So I worked really hard to become a good ophthalmologist. I sought extra training. I worked extra long hours. I sought surgical experiences that were hard to get. And I've always tried to better my education. I remember when I was in my the University of Nairobi faculty all went on strike. It was a pay-related thing. And many of my colleagues took that 1 year. It went on for a whole year. We thought it would be a short time, but they took that limbo period to go and do locums and make money. And I stayed behind at the hospital with the one expert lecturer who had nowhere to go and 2 final year students who are foreigners and they were too close to qualifying to go without nothing. So it was basically the 4 of us, and me being the most junior. We ran the department at the National Referral Hospital. And in that 1 year, I got more skills training and more skills gained than in all my other 3 years of training combined. It's my desire to be significant that made me make that sacrifice and remain behind. I became very good as a surgeon in using intraocular lenses. For the young ones, they don't understand that because they think they've always been there. By the time I graduated, doing surgery with intraocular lenses was almost unknown. But this expert doctor had trained me. And so when Fred Hollows Foundation came to Africa to try and convert doctors from ICC to ECC, despite me having been only 1 month out of training, I was recruited as a trainer. I became the trainer for the program for Africa, and I ended up training my own teachers. And for sure, that ticked my recognition box. So let me now talk about my need to be significant as a mother. So I have 3 children. My youngest just turned 15. My desire to be recognized as a good mother dictated the fact that I went everywhere with my babies. It was an expensive decision that I made when I started having babies, but one that once I made it, I stuck to it. I wasn't going to miss professional assignments because I had a baby, and neither was I going to leave my baby behind. So I developed this network of nannies all around, from Tanzania to South Africa to Hong Kong, affordable nannies that I could call on every time I traveled. Or sometimes I traveled with my regular nanny. Her name was Esther. She stayed with me until my firstborn completed her master's degree, when I just forced her to retire. And having Esther in my life really helped me to be a good mother. So this, when in the picture that I showed you with Hassan, I actually had a 7-month-old baby with me in that meeting. I think it was at the Drakensberg at that point. I just went with my babies everywhere. Yeah, at this meeting, I had a 7-month-old baby who was purely breastfeeding, so I just went with the baby. So work hard and do all it takes. If that is what will make you feel significant and recognized, then you do have to work hard at it. You do have to make sacrifices. The fourth need is love and connection. And in order to fulfill this need, we look for intimacy and we look for friendships. Some of us marry many wives. Some of us get a dog. And for many, we settle for connection because love sometimes is a bit scary. So one day I decided to choose love, and I walked out of a marriage that made me unhappy. I was very certain that I needed to leave the marriage. I was completely uncertain about what lay ahead. I was in the middle of a PhD working at a very volatile time in Kenya when there was post-election violence, and my PhD research was exactly in the region most affected by that violence. But despite all that, I made that decision. And a few years later, love made me move to a new country, to Rwanda. And that move led to a complete change in direction in my career. In Rwanda, I joined academia, and this started my journey to becoming a professor of ophthalmology, something that I believe would not have happened in Kenya because I was very much a clinician and not interested in academia. So teaching makes me better as a clinician. And when I left the university, my husband and I started RIO. My husband is an ophthalmologist. So it is a research center, a community service provider, but through the school, we are running the first residency training program in Rwanda. And it's the only private training program in our region. We were motivated to start RIO because of our own frustrations at work, where you are trained to a certain level, but you find within the system you're in, you cannot apply what you've learned. You're frustrated by the fact that, up to today, every ophthalmologist in Rwanda is trained outside Rwanda. And often when they come back, we have to retrain them. And that's really what motivated us to start RIO. It has been an expensive endeavor, both financially and time-wise. And in my moments of frustration, because sometimes it's frustrating, I remind myself that having RIO and running RIO matters a lot to someone I love and someone I'm connected to. So this year we will graduate our first batch of Made in Rwanda residents. Everybody is waiting for them, and we believe we are going to produce ophthalmologists who we are sure can hit the ground running. The fifth need is the need for growth. And this is a spiritual need, not a personality need. It's that desire to strive for betterment. When you believe that you've reached your full potential, then you must move on to the next level. So if any of you listening today feels like I've really reached where I wanted to be, then it's time to move on and grow. So this need influenced me moving from being medical advisor for Fred Hollows for 15 years and subsequently moving to Orbis. I just felt that I had reached my peak in Fred Hollows and I wanted something different. I didn't intend to move to Orbis. I didn't have the job offer then, but Orbis then asked me if I could join them. And what that move allowed me to do is to move from NGO program kind of activity to really focusing on education and technology. And that's what I focus on in Orbis. So I still serve on the board of Fred Hollows Foundation Kenya. So growth does not mean shutting doors. And you must also remember that sometimes growth is not about changing or moving, but it's about accepting some things and then adjusting. So you have to determine your own path for growth. And talking about Orbis and technology, I invite you to this webinar, which will be later this month, where will be a panel talking about artificial intelligence in ophthalmology. Finally, I'd like to talk about the need to contribute beyond self. This is the need that is about a sense of service, a sense of giving and helping others, and a sense of supporting others. So if this is your biggest need, for sure you will change your community as you try to meet this need. So this girl in this picture, Simila, she was not my patient. It is her mother who was my patient. She had both trachomatous corneal scarring and she had cataracts. And we could not improve her vision very much. But that little improvement we gave her enough independence to allow Simila to go back to school, and Simila wants to become a doctor. And having been with us as we were managing her mother made her even more enthusiastic to become a doctor. So all of us listening today, I'm sure, have impacted people in similar ways. And this is what makes ophthalmology such a fulfilling career. It makes it easy for us to meet this need of serving beyond others. It's really, as eye care workers, every day this is ticked, this box is ticked. But I want to end my talk by saying that this need also helps me to reflect on those who have contributed to my success by serving me beyond themselves. From a teacher in primary school, Mrs. Mushemi, I went to a school where we were only 6 non-Muslims. So I went to a Muslim primary school. And she was the only non-Muslim teacher. And she looked at me and realized that I was not going to achieve my potential if things didn't change. And that change meant basically moving me from one class to another, something that was unheard of and deemed impossible. She fought that battle for me. And I believe had that move not been made, I would never have done well enough to go to the high school that I went to. I think about my own father. My parents are both still alive in Nairobi. And my father always said to us, we used to roll our eyes every time he started that speech, but it was a speech about how I'm not a rich man, I'm a poor man. I have no farm that you're going to inherit. I have no money that you're going to inherit. My inheritance to you is going to be education. And he always said, I will pay your school fees for school until the day you tell me to stop. And he basically did that for all of us. To my professor in London, who agreed to do the first rapid assessment of avoidable blindness. The first one in the world was done in Nakuru. I had a need, he had a need, and he gave me the benefit of doubt in that I was not into research yet. But by doing that, he really whet my appetite in research. And to people like Amar Agarwal, I work in a private hospital sometimes, and Amar Agarwal helped me realize that there's nothing wrong with private practice. But he also helped me realize that quality is the ultimate money maker. And it was a new message for me because coming from the NGO world, coming from government sector, we kind of think that private is all evil. And really joining the Agarwal network opened my eyes to some different thinking, where quality was what was emphasized, and quality automatically led to more patients, more money. I'd like also to pay tribute to all those organizations and their donors who have supported eye care in Africa over the years, including the Kunle Hassan Foundation. It is, I don't know whether you guys know, but Kunle funds a lot of things out there. I can tell you in the AOC, whenever we are stuck, he comes to our rescue. And finally, I would like to really honor my family also, who constantly help me not to lose sight of the fact that giving begins at home, and giving does not mean neglecting those closest to yourself. Yeah, as you change the world, remember those also who are closest to you. So this is Eric, the boy that's been part of my story. And as you try to understand the 6 human needs and relate them to the way your career is going and the things that you're planning for your career, try and identify which is your primary driver. And remember that your needs, how they are being met or how they are being not met, will affect your well-being. But I find this thinking about needs also helps me to understand those around me so that I can build better relations. And it helps me to understand what fuels and also triggers me emotionally. But it's important to realize that, for example, if the people you're working around you have a need for significance, then as an organization, you must have systems where you recognize your staff. This is really important for employee productivity. And please, please, please don't be like the politicians who want significance and recognition. And the way they do that is by surrounding them with people who they see as less than themselves, because that makes them then shine as significant. I really thank you all for having me today. And I hope we will have some time for more discussion so that it's not just me talking. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Mathenke. This has been very enlightening and soul-searching as well. Dr. Odemilo is going to take over from me. He's going to coordinate questions and people who want to make suggestions to contribute to the discussion. So Dr. Odemilo, over to you.
Okay, thank you. And as usual, it's been a soul-searching. Professor Chiku always makes us think quite deeper. And I think, it's one of the things I look at. A lot of women, especially in ophthalmology, I think it's tougher. I never had to carry my children for any international program because my wife is there. But again, like you said, it's not to take the people at home for granted. And being able, it's good to hear you say how you were able to go through all this and achieve all you've been. And we wish you so much more success in life because there's still a long way to go. So please, if you have a question, can you raise up your hand so I can see you? I'm looking at the list now. Or you want to make a comment, please just raise your hand so we can take your comments. I guess the mothers will also like to make some comments here.
I see Faye.
Okay, Faye, please, can you go ahead?
Yeah, thank you very much, Sikul. It's always exciting listening to you give lectures, and we're indeed very grateful. Now, my question is, for many of us starting off a career, we were actually not actively deciding where to go, what to do, particularly at the maybe primary level, secondary school level. You seem to have been privileged to be able to know at that early time what was instructive to where you decide to go and what you decide to do. I'm not sure many of us are in that position. You probably just found yourself thrown into a particular direction and then you had to run with it. So for some people who may be, okay, maybe this is not what I wanted to do, but now I'm here. What will be your take? What's your advice? Because I guess many of us might be in that position. Once again, thank you for sharing all your thoughts and how you coped with being a mother, a wife, a lecturer, and all the other things put together.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Faye. Thank you, Faye, and nice to have you on this meeting. Faye is a good friend. I think, Faye, it's not that right from the beginning I was completely sure of what I want to do. Like I said, I wasn't sure I wanted ever to be an ophthalmologist, but I was certain about the principles. Like I said, I wanted a career that I know I will always have a job. I don't have to struggle for a job. I wanted a career where I could make good money if I went into that career. And it's basically what then happens is once you're certain about those things is when things come your way, you judge them and make your decisions based on those certainties that you don't want to go against. And you know, life can be very random. I would never in my wildest dreams have imagined I would be in Rwanda today. And I guess once you are in a situation and that's where you are, that's just the way it is. And that becomes your new baseline. And you start again the whole thing of how do I get my satisfaction in where I am today? What are the kind of relationships I need to build? How do I find significance in this place I am today? And of course, there'll be things you will be certain about, there'll be things you'll be uncertain about. But I guess you just need to keep changing that baseline according to where life has taken you.
Okay. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Okay, so I can see Dan. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Olufemi. Thank you, Shiko. When I saw that you're the one speaking, I knew it would be another masterpiece, and you never disappointed. So the only difference between this masterpiece and the ones that I've heard you talk about before is that I've often heard you talk from your head, but this time you are talking from your heart. But it was still a masterpiece. I was telling somebody that she can't give a bad lecture even if she wanted. But I just wanted to appreciate Shiko. Shiko is I'm fortunate to have been a junior, and you might be surprised because I look much older. But she was my senior in residence, and I've learned a lot of things since the first year of residence. And she's in a group of very few people that I call my mentors. What she's doing in Kenya and in Rwanda, and I'm very happy that you have been able to join this paper as a speaker. And I'm sure she'll be an inspiration for many, just as she has been for me. It was just a comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, I didn't know that we had Kenyans on the talk. I thought I'm talking to people from Nigeria only. And I was tempted at the beginning to give a Kenya-Nigeria joke, so I'm glad I didn't. Otherwise, Dan would be killing me now. Yeah, but Dan, thank you for that. Dan was my junior in ophthalmology residency, but he's actually one of those who encouraged me to do ophthalmology because he was unique in that he knew he would do ophthalmology before he joined ophthalmology. And I'm not surprised that he has become such a success in everything that he does today. So thanks for your warm words, Dan.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Matei, I just want to let you know that you're not only talking to people in Nigeria. I am I know we have corresponded in the past. Secure Glaucoma Foundation. I live in Dallas, Texas, and that's where I'm calling from. I am so thankful for the example that you are. You know, you're an inspiration to many of us that have come behind, many years behind. You know, thank you for the talk you gave today. It was actually very insightful, and I'm actually going to play this recording to a group of female ophthalmologists that I know. You know, sometimes as women, we think we can't do it all. But, you know, just thank you so much for that insight we're coming to that realization as people, and you know, the simple fact that you just have to put the work in. So thank you so much for your lecture, and thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Dr. Tosin. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other comments or questions for her? Chiku, I think one of the challenges in Africa now is getting a lot of research papers out. And I see that you've done a lot of research. Can you give us some keys there?
Okay, so I think before I went into research, I used to think of research as very boring. And part of that is to do with the way research is handled when we are students. I had to write a thesis for my MMed in ophthalmology. And I remember I did it on ocular manifestations of rheumatoid arthritis. And I just did that because it was possible. The man who headed the rheumatology clinic at Kenyatta Hospital was my friend, and I thought, okay, that's what I'm going to look at. And I was completely lost during that project and quite embarrassed today when I look back at what I produced. When I went into research in Nakuru, it was from a completely different perspective. One of the reasons I volunteered to be the testing ground for RAB was because I had questions myself that I couldn't answer. For example, a lot of NGOs said, you have to do high volume cataract surgery. We are giving you resources to do high volume cataract surgery. They're doing thousands in India, in Aravind, and how come you're only doing this 700, 800 a year? What's the problem? And I had a very good outreach program with my clinical officers, and we didn't have a waiting list. We did every case that came, we did. So I couldn't understand where the problem was. So part of my reason for wanting to do the RAB was to find out this number that we are told 9% of people over 50 are blind in Africa. Is it really correct? Where are these people? And for those of you who don't know, that RAB in Nakuru was the first one that found that the percentage of people blind over 50 in Africa is only about 2%. And so I went into that research out of a dilemma that I had, and I therefore went into it wholeheartedly. When I went to do my MSc in London, there were many suggestions about research that we were asked to do. And I said, no, I want to do my research in Nakuru, and I want to do it in a prison. And the reason I wanted to do it in this prison was that, again, there was all this talk about xerophthalmia in Africa. Yeah. And I had never seen a child with xerophthalmia, but I saw adults with melting corneas, and they were all prisoners. And I was really curious about what is going on in this prison that's making people's corneas melt. And why isn't any intervention happening? Is it because everybody assumes it's only in children in Africa? And so I had to convince Alan Foster that that's the study I wanted to do. And he said, you will never be allowed into a prison. It's a maximum security prison. How will they allow you to go in there? And I wanted to test their eyes, draw their bloods and all that. And I said, Nakuru is my district. I know people there. I will do it. And so that was a really difficult research project because of the logistics around it. But I was determined to do it because I was trying to answer my own question, my own dilemma. And that has been my approach to research throughout. It's, don't do research for the sake of research. Then it's tiresome and it doesn't give you satisfaction. Do research that answers your own question. Don't be pushed also into doing research for people who have the money to do research. Sometimes they bring you the solution and they want to prove you have the problem. Don't do those kind of things, yeah? They will frustrate you and it becomes hard to then have the energy to push it to publishing, because publishing is hard work. But when it is your own question that you've answered, then you find the energy to do that research. That's what I would say in brief.
Thank you so much. That's quite revealing. Dr. Kiari also, Dr. Kiari, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Chiku. Great to see you. And
Dr.
fantastic
Kiari.
talk, even though I joined at the end because I'm actually attending a wedding, a niece's wedding. But I still had to say, oh no, I have to find time to listen before I watch the recording later. I just wanted to say Chiku has actually been, I don't know, a trailblazer in a way. When I was going to do my master's dissertation, they said, have you seen Chiku's work? That's the prisoner dissertation she's talking about. And Chiku was in London a few weeks and I met her there. And we discussed about her dissertation and yeah, she gave me some ideas. That was the master's. And then when I was going to do my PhD, Chiku was there before me again. So I discussed with Chiku how she did her PhD and yeah, so I was, you know, following after her. But then at some point, I think it was before the PhD, was it Chiku that the tables turned kind of? I was doing the national survey in Nigeria and Chiku wanted to start her PhD. So she came to Nigeria, she actually did. And she met us in Ekiti State. So she was there in Ekiti State for a few days with us and we changed. So we keep exchanging notes and I think she has been a very good pal along the path that we are. And at some point at the London school, they used to confuse whether it's Chiku or Fatima, you know, in name. But there's another thing about Chiku, she has a great sense of humor. Whenever I'm around her, I laugh a lot and that is really great. And it's really lovely to have you here. About research questions, yes, I think that's why I keep encouraging people. Have your own questions first. It's not the topic that matters. What is your question? What is your challenge? What are you thinking of? What came to your mind? Make it a question. And then from that question, you can now begin to develop a topic. You can now have others to guide you on how to make that question into a research topic, into what you can research, a researchable thing. So yeah, thank you so much, Chiku. It's great to see you. Yeah, Dan Tosin, fantastic. Kule Hassan, the role model. We thank you very much. And his team, of course. Thank you so much for bringing this to us today.
Fatma, I'm so happy to see you and yeah, to hear you on the forum. It's a nice surprise for me, Dr. Oli, to see all these friends on this forum. And Fatma, I consider her my sister. And it's true that sometimes Fatma is Shiko and Shiko is Fatma. And I learn from her and she learns from me. And I guess that's how life should be.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kiari. Dr. Abdusalam Shuaib.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much, Dr. Chiku. My question will have to do with about the ladies studying ophthalmology. How do we make the environment more conducive for them?
Thank you, Dr. Shuaib. I think there's no one answer that suits all ladies. It's about giving them an ear to hear what their situation is and understanding that sometimes, you know, things happen in life that they have to deal with on top of what they're dealing with as students. I can give you an example. When we started Rio, the first batch we got was all men, and I was a bit disappointed, but I wasn't going to take a lady just because they were ladies. I wanted good students. So much as I would like to be gender sensitive, the gender sensitivity there meant only the men qualified because they were the good ones. I wasn't going to discriminate against them. In the second batch, I was hoping I would have a lady. And I did have a very good candidate from the Democratic Republic of Congo. And she really struggled at the interview. And I was very pro her because I was was desperate that at least one lady does well, and I have a lady in my program. And after a while, I thought, this lady is struggling, not because she doesn't understand the interview, it's because of language. The interviews were in English and she's a French speaker. And I looked around the room and I said, all of you guys except me can conduct this interview in French. I would like us to start again with this lady. And this time I want you to conduct the interview in French. And she was brilliant. She was really brilliant. And she continues to be one of my brilliant residents. But the transition also for her from Congo to Rwanda with 2 little children was very difficult. And we have certain rules in Rio about how you can take your leave. So you cannot take more than a certain number of days continuously. But I understand that for her, if she has to travel to Congo, and Rwanda-Congo relations are also funny, the few opportunities that arise for her to travel, to go and see her children, are when I must give her leave. And so despite the rules we have, I bend them to allow her to be there for her family, because she absolutely has to go and see her family. So I guess, Shuaib, in every situation, people will have different needs, and it's about understanding what is their need and meeting them halfway. But what I always tell ladies also is, don't take advantage of the fact that you're a lady and therefore, give others a hard time. It's not easy, for example, when we take maternity leave and we deprive departments of people. So try also and work with those people you work with. I remember in Kenyatta, like I said, I had help, but when I had my baby, I needed a cesarean section. And my lecturers told me that if you go on maternity leave, you will have to repeat the whole year. And I was determined I'm not going to repeat. Unfortunately, I ended up with a cesarean section, but I found out that the maximum sick leave you could take, male or female, is 3 weeks. And so 3 weeks after my cesarean section, I was back in class. Now, I could have gone and fought with all these guys about maternity leave and it's my right, but it was much easier for me to go in for a few hours every day and not make them have to negotiate with the university about me repeating a whole year. And honestly, by doing what I did, the rules changed. The rules changed because, of course, when I appear then so soon after a cesarean section, people start thinking different about their rules. So that's what I would say. Ladies, don't take advantage, but everybody be conscious that women do have some specific challenges that we need to be conscious about.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And I'm also
just a follow-up to that question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Are there issues, and this is just to help my understanding, are there issues of equity of pay, equity of training? So, apart from addressing the individual needs based on gender, are there issues, the other issues that we would categorize that issues that women face in residency or any kind of training program? Like, I'm using the U.S. as an example. So you would graduate and you, compared to your colleague, you'd be paid differently, or in training, your exposure to training. Do those issues arise apart from the other things that you've just talked about? And if they do, then how would you recommend that they get addressed?
Okay, I am personally not aware of those kind of differences. I think that in terms of the rotations that I experienced, the pay, because we are all on either government schemes or a private hospital scheme, those tend to be quite equitable. So maybe it's not that bad in our part of the world, but I am just talking out of my own personal experience. I can tell you that until Dan started his Kisii Eye Hospital, he never earned more than me all his life. Now he's passed me 10 times, but yeah. Maybe Faye, you have some thoughts on that question from Dr. Tosin?
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Tosin. Do I have the permission of Olufemi to speak on it?
Please go ahead.
Yes, Well, I agree with you truly that in principle, in this part of the world, we may not have such issues in our hands. But I also do know there are sometimes some subtle biases that we cannot close our eyes to. And not long ago, I had a young lady who was seeking for a job, and wherever she went to is like, okay, you're just newly married, and in the next few months, you tell us you're pregnant, and then you have 3-month maternity leave and all of that. And so not on the basis that you're married and pregnant, but then she got turned down again and again. So we cannot rule out that happening. So I align strictly with what Sikula said, that women generally, we need to probably do a little bit more understanding our own position and trying to see that our organizations are not terribly changed. We need to be strong, and we need to know that certain things we're doing, not based on our gender. We're employed as an ophthalmologist, not because you're a woman or a man. So we really need to strive to do a bit more. And I agree with Siku. I was not, maybe I was a bit more disadvantaged. For every of my exam, I had to go with either a pregnancy or a small baby, 2 weeks old. I remember my final national exam I had with a 3-day-old baby. I had to go actually for induction because I didn't want to go for that exam with a very highly protruding tummy. So I had an induction on the 7th and I traveled on the 9th for exam. Thank God I have supportive families. And in the exam, the baby was crying and some of the lecturers said, whose baby is that? And I said, sorry, it's mine. I said, okay, quickly go and breastfeed. So we need the support of our teachers, support of the men. They just need to understand that it takes a whole lot for a woman to want to be a career person and to still raise a family and be relevant at home. But women, we have to do, of course, much more, you know. Thank you for that question.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll call Dr. Hassan to make a comment, then Dr. Harriman can take over. It's been a very lively discussion. When ladies are talking, you just keep quiet, especially.
Thank you, Dr. Demilo, for asking me to say something. Normally, I want to be on the background. Siku, well, you just yourself. Siku is wonderful. She's a free spirit. She flows. And always remember what Dr. Anafa used to say, that I will always move on. I'm like water. If there's obstacle in my way, I flow around it. You know, Siku is just like that. Nothing is too small, nothing is too great. And we're very grateful for sharing your experience with us. And we look for better collaboration in future with the West African and the East African group of ophthalmologists. And I really admire your comments about the, being soft with the ladies. I'm very soft with them because I know what it takes. Through experience of my own sisters and my wife, when she was pregnant and for her master's, and she had to get a letter from the doctor that she can go on an excursion to Europe. It wasn't easy, but women have extra strength, but they need that sort of support to get to the best of them. If not, people like you and others will not be talking to us today. Fatima, Faye, you're an inspiration to the younger generation, but the younger generation must also have the discipline, to believe in themselves and to give their best even under any circumstances. I really appreciate all of you here, Dr. Smig, Dan, Dr. Anafa was on earlier, and it's just great to have this sort of forum to share experience, to motivate the younger ones. And it gives me a sort of personal, feeling of fulfillment, when I listen to you guys talking, and I hope all of us, we have to try our best to create something for Africa, to let Africa start shining. I was really impressed with the artificial intelligence program that is coming forward. Please, the future is bright. we are the only one who can and will liberate ourselves and make Africa shine. We have a place, and I believe our time will come, despite all the challenges. Thank you very much, all of you that are here, to share with us your experience and to listen to those who have been through difficult parts, and at the end of the day, they are proud to share their experience. Thank you, Sekou. We appreciate and we love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Sekou. Somebody, Chris Ezemiwe, put a comment in the chat box and said, women are created to be tougher by God. And then says, this is a very insightful lecture. Thanks, Prof. Now, is it true? Are women created to be tougher?
You should ask that question to the men, and I'm sure they will all say yes.
So I just want to thank you very much.
I say yes. For your information, Chris, it's interesting for you to be here to listen to us. Chris is my bank manager.
Oh.
I'm sorry. So I'm sure Chris is here to recruit more women so that he can make more money. I'm sure. Thank you for coming. I'm sure when you listen to this sort of story, I'm sure you reduce your interest rate for ophthalmologists. Eh? Chris, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Doctor.
Okay. So if Mr. Chris is going to recruit women, then we will think of a career change. So this lecture has been appropriate in that it's career planning and the influence of needs. So we might just gravitate towards the banking industry. So thank you very much, Sekou. Thank you very much for this very insightful lecture. It's going to be on YouTube. So it's something we can go back, listen to, learn from, and apply to our day-to-day living. And even for some of us that have been around for a while and taken a different career path, it's something that we will go back and read and listen to. So thank you very much for accepting our invitation. Thank you for imparting knowledge and just making a difference. Thank you. So I thank everyone else for joining this afternoon. We look forward to the next lecture and enjoy the rest of the weekend. Thank you.